What is up? I'm Miguel Antonio, and you are listening to the Live and Create podcast. It's where I interview artists and entrepreneurs about what it means to live a great life and create great things. And before we jump into the podcast, I'd love for you to check out my band, Run With It. Here's a clip from our song, Night Watch.
Late nights, losing time, the cars, the trains, the flashing lights fade right in the line. When they let me in, I dance all night. Just one taste, gonna kill the pain. Hey, 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 just one taste. Just one taste, all it's gonna take. Hey, 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 just one taste. I'm on the night watch, baby, run till the sun. I'm on the night watch, baby, run until the sun comes up.
Like what you heard, make sure you check us out at Run With It Band, at Run With It Band, everywhere you follow people at, or go to runwithitband.net. It'll take you to all the different links you want to go to, and there'll be a little button you can click for booking information. Now for today's podcast.
The Live and Create podcast.
So how many companies do you have? We've talked about this a little bit before. Could you break it down? There's a few pieces going on with your events.
Sure. So first is Cake and Champagne Event Planning, and that is a full service wedding planning firm, and it is exactly what you think it is. And then we developed...
You specialize only in cake and champagne, period.
Best parts of the wedding, you know? What else do you need to know?
Right.
Like, I got the top tier stuff. Like,
that's awesome. Sorry, I cut your flow.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. I can pivot. And then I have a corporate branch, CNC Event Productions, because responding to a corporate email as Cake and Champagne,
they're not looking for that on a Tuesday afternoon at
They're not. It's a little frilly. And I have found people who have never met me don't take me seriously when they're like, oh, that's a cute little company. Like, we need an adult.
You're like, what the?
Right.
I'll show you.
I was like, okay, so new company for you is,
right.
So in CNC Event Productions, and we do, corporate events, parties, fundraisers, galas, festivals, all those things. Like we did like a 600 person family fun day. And, we did VCP's house party a couple years ago. And that's like 1,000 people at the T-Mobile Center. And
nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then the last company is Polka Dots Event Rentals. And that's been the last 2 years. And we have found that it really dovetails well with our wedding planning company. And at the time, there was a hole in the market for rental companies for tabletop decor. It seems, though, that me and several other women saw that hole at the same time. But
you all show up to like a meeting where you're like, who are you? Let's go.
We do.
Mortal Kombat.
We do. But actually we all get along really well,
That's
and
good.
I will call, Ashley, be like, do you have this charger? And she'll be like, do you have these candles? And so it just is more of the Kansas City wedding community that works really well together. We believe in community over competition, and there's enough weddings for all of us. And we just do it well.
That is something I've noticed. I've having the opportunity to step into that world a little bit. I almost feel like I'm adjacent in some ways because every once in a while I'll come in and play for it or do different weddings or events and get to see you all in some capacity. That has blown me away of how open everyone seems. Like even other artists, like you said, people even in the same field of trying to help each other, or like if they can't do it, referring them, that kind of piece.
Right.
And that's pretty remarkable.
I've heard that it's pretty unique to our area. People come in, they're
I
like,
imagine.
St. Louis, even like LA, they're like, people don't help each other. Like it's cutthroat. And I'm like, why? There's no need. There's enough for all of us. And it just, the rising tide lifts all boats. And I'm a big proponent of that. So, anybody asks me for help or advice, like I'm there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was refreshing because especially when in this world, learning how much money is out there, I imagine people could really quickly become cutthroat just because they're trying to get a little extra here, as opposed to, like you said, everybody kind of like lifting everyone up. Mm-hmm. And I remember, so it was the three companies in there. How long have you been doing like working in the events world?
I launched Cake and Champagne in 2019 after my own wedding. And I was like, I like this so much. I want to do it again and again and again. So
That's when you know you're called for it, because most people I meet, they're like, after planning a wedding, I never want to do that again.
Right.
So if you loved it,
I did.
what was it that inspired you through that process when you were planning your own wedding and then it made you say, let's go plan everyone else's?
Well, it was honestly a creative outlet. I designed all my own centerpieces with, vintage books and globes and trinkets. And I got to hunt for those things, which treasure hunting at thrift shops is my jam. And developing polka dots event rentals, getting to do that again I got to go to thrift stores and look for decor and, reuse stuff like that. But planning my own wedding was a creative outlet, with fonts and colors and making this look like this. And so it's basically just artsy problem solving. And
yeah,
I'm all about some artsy problem solving.
And what world did you come from as far as vocationally before that?
Well, I graduated from film school, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. But, even in film school, the role I was in a lot is production. I was the producer, which I wrangled contracts and got people fed and procured permits and timelines and chased college kids around because I was also 24 at the time, and they were all 18. And so I was like grandma. College grandma.
They're 18 and in the film world. So they're probably, as artists, they're just like floating around. I was in the drama department from time to time. And I bet that's probably like hurting musicians in some regard.
It is hurting cats. Yeah. It was my first experience hurting cats. And it turns out I'm really good at it. And what is a wedding, but not the same movie produced again and again and again.
Right. So graduated from film school. And then what was it? Where were you working as far as in the film industry after that? What did it look like to step out, I guess, full time into the events world?
So I graduated film school and then got a job in the tax department at a bank and proceeded to sit at a desk and wither away and die.
How did that happen? Just sidetrack here.
Well, in film school, they were trying to funnel people to LA, and I was born in California. I wasn't going to LA, and
You're over
I was. You couldn't make me. It wasn't glamorous.
Yeah.
It's expensive and smells like bumpy. I'm not interested in going to LA. And so then film jobs in Kansas City, there were 4. And and then after 6 weeks, I'm like, my student loans are coming. What do I do?
That shit gets real.
Yeah. And I had never been unemployed before my whole life. I've never not had 2 jobs. And so, I was like, I gotta do something. And my friend was like, you can come work with me at the bank. And I was like, okay. And they offered me,
you're paying.
They offered me more money than I'd ever seen. So I was like, okay, sure.
Well, I graduated with a music degree and I left college with my degree and then started a roofing company as a contractor. And my joke was always like, that's what you do when you get your degree in music is you do something else afterwards. Cause no one's going to just straight up pay you, to do this thing you're passionate about at first. So you had this job and working in the bank and you were working that. What did it look like to step out from that then? That security and more money than you had seen at that point.
Well,
to say, I'm going to go risk this whole entrepreneurial endeavor.
There was one more step. And
okay. I was going too fast.
Well, it was a quick hop. I was only there for a year because I was dying. But then I got the opportunity to work for an online retailer that specialized in wedding gifts. So it was a small business. And I actually learned a lot of lessons about small business. And it felt attainable, because I went to work for this guy and it was this small company. And I'm like, I could do this. This is not big and scary. It's achievable. And then while I was doing that, I got married. And then I was still doing that. And then I was like, I want to do this. And so then that ended. And then I was just like, okay, here we go.
That's cool. So you kind of had it sounds like maybe an on-ramp in that regard where you got to run alongside someone already doing it.
I did.
What were some of the things you learned working in that smaller business that you feel like that helped you immediately as you stepped into you're
I definitely learned if something is not in your skill set, outsource it. You're not an accountant, get one. You're not a designer, a website designer, get one, because you will just make yourself crazy trying to run around and get all these
learn
pieces.
all the things.
Yes, like you can't be good at everything, and you need to channel what you are good at to propel you forward, and you need to outsource what you're not good at.
That's such a huge lesson. I remember the first time where like my wife has her cleaning business at the time, and it was like a residential. We do commercial now together. And then I had my own, like the band. I remember sitting down, I was like, okay, it's time. I like opened up like some tax program I bought, and it was about an hour in. I was like, nope, can't do it. This isn't going to work. I had a high regard of what I was capable of, and it crushed me very quickly. That's really huge.
Yep.
Is there anything else that sticks out to you, again, that helped you like right when you stepped in to the stream of your own business?
Definitely start before you're ready. Like, you're never going to be ready. You just got to go, and it's kind of, I've heard it's the same with having kids. Like, you're never ready to have kids. You just got to do it, And so that was it. I wasn't ready to stand on my own 2 feet, but I got ready.
Right. So by the way, I love that. And it is true with kids too. Cause I remember we debated, we got married, we had 2, or she had 2 already, my stepsons. And, but we had debated back and forth on a third. And, it's like, and I remember a mentor of mine at the time saying the same thing, like, hey man, you're always going to say you need X amount more dollars. You'll just figure it out. What was it, something you saw specifically in the business where like start before you're ready? Was it someone who gave you that advice, or is that something you've seen throughout your life? Like this idea of like jump before you're fully ready, that concept.
Well, I don't want to say I'm reckless. My husband would say I'm reckless, especially since I crashed a bird scooter on Friday.
Nice.
I just really believe in my own ability to figure it out. I really trust that I have the tools I need to get there.
Well, and it's funny you say reckless, because I almost feel like, to do entrepreneurial endeavors, when I think of like music, it's kind of the same thing. You have to have this audacity to say like, I can create something that'll be valuable to somebody else.
Right.
Just like a business. And the more I reflect on it, it seems like the people who actually find success in there are a little reckless. Like they're willing to do the thing that pisses everyone off, or they're willing to like crash a bird scooter downtown or whatever. But it's like, it's that piece of our brains that frees us up to take that risk,
right.
Which is really cool.
I mean, the fear of falling, but knowing that you'll catch yourself. That's why, I go into weddings and they're like, well, what if, and what if? It's like, trust that whatever is teed up, I'm going to hit it. Just know that,
right. Now, were you like, even when you were younger, did you have the same kind of mentality, like a little bit reckless, a little bit like, I got this, let's do some crazy shit?
Yes. And actually pause for a second, because I had 70% battery and now I have 10. So I'm going to go get my charger. So ask me that question in 10 seconds.
Yeah, we'll come back to it. Is it an iPad? Are you on an iPad?
No, I'm on my laptop. And
on your laptop? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Because my iPad does that, where I have to either have low power mode, which is not very functional if you do that, or on the charger at all times. But yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, I was like 70%, I'll be fine. And then it was like power save. And I was like, shit, rude.
Now, so going back on that one, you were kind of mentioning, had to take a quick break there for anyone listening, but you were mentioning how like, yes, when you were younger, it sounded like taking some of these risks was part of what you did, like who you are.
It is. My dad threw me into pools and off cliffs and...
Hold on. You said cliffs. Pools, maybe. Cliffs? Were you guys skydiving? What are you guys doing? Or was it those like parasailing? What was that thing? The squirrel suit thing?
It was by the ocean.
Okay.
Into the ocean.
No shit.
Yes.
That's why you don't want to go back to California. People are throwing you off cliffs when you go there.
Hey, people be throwing me off cliffs all the time. It's it's how you pull yourself back out that counts. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no, I wasn't a fearful kid. I wasn't. I had 4 parents raising me, telling me I could be anything I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know what I wanted to be, but I just wanted to live an interesting life. And I've always known that. And I still believe that at my core, that I want to live an interesting life and I don't want to live the same day twice. And that is what really motivates me to work for myself.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, I love that. Like taking those risks, like from the young age, but then hearing you're surrounded by people who, in a way, are like fostering delusion, but the delusion becomes a reality, right?
Right. They created a monster.
Yeah. And how much better that than being surrounded by people who are constantly, like I know people who are raised by people who are like, are you sure? I don't think you can do that. Like kind of always talking down. It's like they have to fight through that. And I've been thinking a lot about that concept of the power of delusion. And I was just on a meeting with a music supervisor. He's like works in film and TV kind of music placement. And that was one thing he had talked about where he's like, I kind of gaslit myself to get here. I kind of like kept telling myself this is happening, but it was insane that it would happen. And, and he's like, now I'm here and now I'm helping other people do it. And I had another friend who was in Afghanistan. And he said they kind of had a mantra, which was, they would say, how you doing today, soldier? He would say, I'm 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And he's like, we're not. You have friends dying next to you. He's like, but the only people who really survived who had that mentality, like I'm 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And man, when he told me that, I was like, shit, that's the mantra I want in my head. Let's go.
Right. I mean, but what is delusion, but not manifestation?
Yeah. Well, are you familiar with Alex Hormozy?
I'm not.
At all? So incredible business writer, investor, business owner, all these kind of things. And one thing he said, he was like, if you imagine the best case scenario, that's not real. And if you imagine the worst case scenario, that's actually not real either. They're both fabrications of your imagination. So you might as well believe the good shit and go at it. And I was like, that's a really practical like way to look at what manifestation is, in that regard. It's amazing. Well, now you're at the helm of these 3 different companies. Yes. Sounds like you got a lot of people working for you. Is it how big is your team, your crew?
So at this point, it is now a full partnership between my business partner, Megan, and I. And Megan is my cousin. So
nice.
It was our childhood dream to have a business together. And
how cool.
Here it is. Our moms were sisters. And so we call each other sister cousins, which I thought was cute until I found out what that meant. And I was like,
they're like sister cousins. You're like, yeah, whatever. We'll get a t-shirt.
Like, people got to be weird, but like her kids are my nieces, like we're sisters in every sense of the way. But so she and I run all 3 of these companies. She's heavier on the wedding coordinating and I'm heavier on the design and the rentals, but we do it both together. And then we just recently hired our first associate planner, Courtney, and she's incredible.
Nice.
Every time I'm like, I need to do something, I turn around and she's doing it.
Yes. That's always fun when someone joins the team and they're the ones calling you, hey, I go ahead, I did this, and this. Is that cool? It's like, that's great. I love it.
Yes. You can't teach that anticipation of what's about to happen. Yeah. You can't teach that. And she's got it. And it's great. It allows us to take 3 weddings in a weekend.
I love it though, that that childhood dream, working with your sister cousin came to fruition.
Good.
I think the first time we met was the murder mystery night, if I remember.
It is.
I don't think we met before that.
We didn't. We emailed a little bit when I told you what to wear, but.
Right. That's true. Yeah, there was a lot of details flying at me. I was like, she knows what she's doing. I don't know this woman, but she's got her shit together. I noticed, and this is something that was in your bio that you said about yourself, where you said you bring equal parts strategy and comedy to every event she touches. And I smiled when I read that bio you sent me because I was like, I saw that the very first night. Like I got to meet you because you were in charge of this huge event and this murder mystery thing. I'm kind of painting the picture. You know what you did. I'm painting the picture for the listener at this time. But you're in charge of this crazy event, all these details, multiple floors. But at the same time, the whole vibe was fun. I could tell everyone's enjoying themselves. We had a blast as a band, being part of this night. And you roped us into being actors as well, which is really fun. I enjoyed that a lot too. Yeah. I bring that up because 1, it's cool that you don't just say this thing, like you live it out. Like it's cool when someone says something and you actually see that they live that out. But the other thing is I've seen events, like I've been part of a lot of events, and sometimes the person in charge you don't want to be around because they're just stressed and they're actually stressing other people out. Like I've seen that. Like there was one we did probably a month and a half ago where all of a sudden one person who was involved of the planning just came up and just like stress everyone else, just kind of like, cool. We just walked off. Like, I don't know what's going on. Where does that come from? That ability to handle all the details, make sure things running smooth, but then at the same time have this like light feeling about you that invites everyone to have fun. How do you put all that together when you're doing this thing?
It's not a conscious thing I do, but I know that energy at anything is counterproductive. And I'm not going to bring anything counterproductive. Also, it repels people, as you have said.
That's what we had. I was with like a venue owner and this other person is like the caterer. And they said some things that like, almost like to the point of like wanting to advocate violence for people who got off like the schedule. We were both like, oh shit, we're going to go. Like, we got to go. We did not want to be around that person.
Right.
It was insane.
Well, I mean, in the end, I just feel like it's never that serious. It's not worth hurting somebody's feelings, or it's not worth getting angry. I have never lashed out at somebody and felt okay about it later. And so I just don't. And also all that chaos you're seeing, it's in there, but it's quiet. You can't see it because it doesn't help.
You're kind of internalizing it.
I do.
In that way.
I do.
Yeah.
The only person who can see it is Meg, because she'll turn around and I'll be standing there like.
She sees it in your eyes.
She's like, oh, she's got fear in her eyes. What's going on? I'm like, the cake is not here yet.
But it's not that serious.
It's not that serious. It's really fine,
Right.
But you definitely met me at my peak form.
Well, yeah, like I said, that event, like we felt great being part of it. It was a really cool night. But then to see like of you lead all those pieces through the night, I was like, damn, this is like master level event planning. I'm not just like blowing smoke at you, like it just being part of so many events. Like I said, I've seen good and bad, and I think it was an incredible way to lead an event. And for you, it's internalizing, right? Because we all get that. We all get anxious and fearful and everything. Are there things that you do to develop that in yourself, or has that just been a natural like part of your personality to be able to kind of like say, okay, you're going to put anxiety here and fear here, and we're going to do this thing outward? Like, is there meditation? Is there like, do you have a toolkit during an event to like, I'm going to step away and take some breaths, or I don't know what it is for you?
My father was always really good in a crisis, and I watched him step in to, car accidents and help people, he was just really good in a crisis. And I don't know if it's genetic or I internalized him watching that. But then also my stepdad, he's a Presbyterian minister, and he is just Zen all the time. And so I don't know, I was raised by really good leadership, and I'm able to, don't get me wrong, I do get ruffled from time to time.
Right.
But I really believe in my ability to figure it out. And while I'm figuring it out, I do not panic. I do not think about what if. I am one foot in front of the other. And the second we cross the finish line, I fold like a lawn chair.
You're like, it's done. Going back.
Yes, it is. Head in the game. It is, it's like Mario Kart.
Yeah.
You don't stop until you're done. And it's focus, it's patience, it's confidence. And yeah, like I said, I was raised with a lot of really good leadership.
That's really cool. It's inspiring to hear too, like just that it almost sounds like you got these things through osmosis of like the good fortune or luck or whatever it is of having great people around you. I was part of a podcast where they invited me on this past Wednesday, and we were talking about just this idea. He asked about legacy and like, what do you want your legacy to be? And I had shared how like, for me, I just keep going around with this idea of like, I think about what my kids will do when they drive away from my funeral. Like, will they listen to my music? Will they, like, how will inspire them? Like, this kind of thing. And it was interesting. He had this like analogy of carrying a tray, and I had never thought of it this way. He connected it to Sesame Street somehow, and he had incredible recall of like these shows in there. But basically, he talked about this character who would carry a tray, and he was always trying to balance it. And he was like, his feet, like, not pushback or whatever, but in conversation, he was like, I wonder if it'll be less about your music. It'll be less about the work you actually did. And it'll be about them remembering what it was like to be around you as you balance this tray of all the things. And I was like, whoa, man, that's really good. Like that was inspiring. And it's inspiring to hear because it sounds like it was that life lived with them, I'm speaking as if like, if your family's still alive.
Sure.
I don't mean to put him in the past tense. In my brain, it's in the past tense because of the funeral
Sure.
stuff. Yeah, I think that's a powerful testament, like encouraging to me, even as a father, of like, man, if you create the right environment, some of those other things I think we get so focused on,
Right.
will truly pay off
Right.
and help them develop into who they want to be, should be.
Right. And it's not about teaching them how to handle money, how to, budget, how to handle conflict. It's really just how do you find peace and how do you create the safest place for the people around you?
That's so good. It's funny because you said it's not about these little things. Last summer, I kept stressing because I work from home during the week. I'm writing, recording, doing everything. And so I'm with the kids, like they're in the house at any given time. It gets crazy. And I was stressing out about making sure the schedule was right and all these things. And they just kept saying, hey, can we go to the gym with you in the morning? Like that's all they would ask for. And I was like, no, we need to do X, Y, Z. And then finally I told my wife, I was like, maybe I just need to take him to the gym in the morning and not worry about anything else. She's like, maybe you should listen to him. And it was like, I wanted to make sure I did all the right things as a dad, but they just wanted to like go to the gym, and they got donuts before the gym, whatever. They went to the gym while we were working out. Like, I was like, oh, that's all they wanted. This year, they said they wanted to sleep in and hang out with each other at night. So it's like a slumber party at our house. We have 3 boys at home right now. The 4th lives on his own. But now it's like a slumber party at all times here. So yeah, they're having parties. I like to get up early though. I don't understand sleeping in like that. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Come on. Anyways, got off on a tangent, but I think that's really cool to hear how your family in so many ways, even throughout your story, has inspired you through it. When you're doing these events and think about this concept of it's not that serious, right? So everyone's got all this money on the line. Everyone, have these high expectations. But like you said, the overly stressful piece doesn't seem to help people. No. And I remember one time, even that, actually, we'll just take that scenario where we walked away from the one person who was like losing her mind. I just looked at the other person. I was like, it was a wedding. I was like, I feel like this is their wedding. And if they want to go take pictures and they're 20 minutes behind schedule, like they get to. Like we all can chill. And the lady there, she's like, yeah, exactly. When you're doing this, I guess, but at the same time, right? So they're hiring us to create the party, to create the event, and still kind of guide them.
Yes.
What are some of your tricks to make sure it's enjoyable, to build in those places where like the person who really is throwing the event is changing the thing, but then how do you keep them like, okay, I also am a professional, so I know if you don't do X, Y, Z, it's going to suck in the end. But what are your tools and tricks with developing that in an event?
Well, it's really important. I take a lot of time to listen to my couples about what it is that they're trying to achieve. What parts are really important to them? Like, are they trying to have special moments with family members that are there? Are they trying to have a rad dance party that goes all night? It's just like trying to narrow in on what it is that they exactly want. And then on the wedding day, I'm eyes on them all day. And it's like, I can tell when my bride is overstimulated, needs to sit down. I can tell when something is taking too long. I can tell when they want more time taking photos because actually they want more of this, or I can tell that they need water or something. It's just eyes on them all the time, and I don't listen to mom or sister or the caterer, and so if the couple does want to push the timeline, it's your day. We're going to do what you want. And it is harder when there's a planning partner like mom, because the only trouble we have these days is moms. And people are like, do you have any bridezillas? And we're all like, no.
It's the momzillas.
It's the moms. It's like a certain generation of women grew up and had children.
And they dreamed of their daughter's wedding their whole life kind of deal, as opposed to the daughter dreaming about the thing.
Right. And so the thing I'm trying to combat the most during the day is people being stressed on behalf of the couple. And like, that is not needed. Like,
that's interesting. That makes sense.
They're like, it has to be perfect. And I was like, they don't care about the cake. Like, I promise you, it's okay. Like, you don't need to stress on behalf of the couple. It is not a problem unless they say it is. So, we have to use battery candles instead of real candles. The couple does not care. You don't need to call somebody and yell at them because you didn't read that in the contract. Like, it is not that serious. It's not that serious, but I listen ahead of time. The couples has a lot of friends with a lot of dietary restrictions. So it is important that the caterer get these different meals right. Like, this is vegan, like this is a nightshade allergy. So, I pay extra attention to those meals coming out and make sure they arrive and make sure the right person gets them, because that's important to the couple.
Yeah. So if I hear you correctly, then you kind of make the client, or the client being the couple, like in a wedding situation, like they're kind of like the standard, and so everything else better bounce off that in your understanding.
They're the North Star.
That's North Star. That's a great way to say it. I love that. When you've had to deal with a momzilla, but what is there, obviously without naming names or anything, you can change the environment, whatever. What's the skills, the jujitsu of talking to a momzilla and bringing her on board?
A lot of times, most people in these conflicts just want to be heard. Mom's opinion just wants to be heard. And so I will listen to everything mom finds important. And sometimes these Zoom calls go for 2 hours because I'm listening to what mom finds important. And so then I take a sidebar with my couple and I'm like, these issues were brought up by your mom. What is your take? And she'll be like, actually, I do care about that. I don't care about this. And I do care about this. And so then I operate off of that list, not off of mom's list. And so then mom will be like, I thought we said blah, blah. And I'll be like, no, actually, she said this and I'm going to do what she said. If you have a problem with that, go talk to her. And sometimes brides
on her wedding day, good luck.
Or just don't.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of people have a hard time trusting that professionals are going to do their job. And I get that not all professionals do their job, and people haven't spent a lot of time with me, and they don't understand that I will, get on my hands and knees and tape marks on the ground so you know where to stand. Like, there's nothing I won't do. There's no job too small for me to make it happen. I will not let you fail. And so once a couple learns that about me, they start to relax a little bit. But sometimes people don't see it until the wedding day. And I am yet to have a couple at the end of the night be like, oh my God, thank God you were here. And I was like, we just got to get there. We just got to get there. You have no idea. I will get you there.
So it sounds like the jujitsu really is in the time in the building trust, if I hear you right.
Communication. It is all communication. Everything is communication, validation.
That's awesome. What do you see for the future for the companies? Like, next 2 years, are there goals on the horizon for you guys that you want to hit? New markets you want to open up?
We would like to be more than just making it. We would like to be comfortable. But Megan is going to lean more into wedding planning because she still likes it.
I like how you slipped that out there.
And honestly, she's better at it than me. Like, she's very good at it. It is what she was made for. And I would rather do the decorating. But, in the same vein, I just wrote a book and it's in editing now. And I hope to push that and also work on public speaking.
That's awesome. Now, in all of this, did you write the book in January, February, when you actually had time? Because I can't imagine you have a lot of time. Like, what is it? I want to get more in the details of the book, but I want to start with how did you have time to write a whole book, a whole ass book?
Oh God, it's been almost 2 years in the writing. But,
Okay.
and it's like last month, I couldn't even look at it. Like I couldn't even think about it. But, in January and February, I can crank out chapters. I can work on, title shopping, like all of that. That is like a downtime thing, which is why it took 2 years.
Right.
But it is done. It is finished.
That's awesome. So what is the book about? And then how does it tie into your speaking?
It's about wedding planning.
Nice. Makes sense.
So
You've been around the block on that one.
yeah. So it is a nonfiction book that you read cover to cover as soon as you're engaged. It's not like checklists and questions to ask your venue. It's like, this is what the next year of your life is going to look like. These are the questions you need to answer. This is what you need to be prepared for. This is where reality needs to come into play. This is why things cost what they cost. These are logistics you need to have in mind. It is not frilly. It is not like, what color do you want your flowers? It's not. It's like, do you really want to pay $200 a person for this one night? Do you like them that much? And it's, I have even a whole chapter about having conversations with your family of who's contributing money.
That's awesome.
It is literally a handbook for you're engaged. Now what?
That's awesome. Great. And as far as the speaking, where are you going to speak for this? Is it like at bridal fairs, or is your speaking focus on other event planners or people wanting to get into event planning?
The public speaking could take any form. A lot of it is going to probably be about the book and about lessons in the book. But I also have other like keynotes, like I have this one called How to Not Look Stupid.
I like it already.
Yeah. And just, things like that, and I like it. I want to be helpful. I want to teach.
How long have you been doing speaking?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. You're like, how long is this podcast?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yes, that's out.
I have not been paid to speak yet,
but you've been going out speaking.
I've
at different places.
There's different like wedding vendor groups. One time we gave a presentation on all the things in our emergency kit, and I'm one of those people where somebody can hand me a mic and they're like, I need you to talk about the Titanic for the next 10 minutes. I'll be like, listen, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life.
You're like, I've seen that movie. I don't know how many times.
Listen, I've seen the movie. I've been in the museum. I know it took 14 minutes to sink, and it was sunk by a hole about the size of a sheet of paper.
So long term, is this kind of where you see things going more for you personally?
I think so, because I want to travel, and I want to go to I want to go to conferences and meet people, and I want to inspire people. I want to show people how really all it takes is belief that you can, as hokey as that might sound. I had enough people believing in me and other people didn't. So let me be that person. Let me tell you that you can.
Well, and I love that with your story, you have something to back it up. You're like, I've had this perspective and this is where it's gotten me. This is how that continues to grow. Because I see in public speaking, sometimes you get people who don't do much, or the 18-year-old who comes out to give life lessons to everybody, that kind of thing where you're like, really? Okay.
Let me tell you about Bitcoin.
Yeah, right. But I think it's really cool to have that perspective of like, hey, this is like how I was raised. Here's these ideas that have formed this actual fruition of 3 companies and day-to-day real, lessons. I think that's awesome. I'll have to, if I don't send you afterwards, I need to send you a link to Rich Bracken is a public speaker, and he goes all over the world now speaking. And I remember meeting with him at a coffee shop, maybe a decade ago or something like that. And he was telling me how he's starting to get into speaking. And now he does it, I think, full time. I think he's fully time on it. Like they'll fly him out to Hawaii and he'll speak. He's a brilliant speaker, just entertainer. He's on the news now all the time, like doing that. It's so cool to see him build that, and I think he came out of the corporate world and found ways to apply like these concepts, and now corporations hire him to come in and speak about it, and it's really, really fun. When's the book come out? Do you have a end date for it?
No,
a launch date?
No, maybe it's in editing right now, and then I've got some research to do on publishing houses, or if I want to self-publish, but I would like to have a book launch party,
Nice.
So that'll probably be this winter.
The downtime in that. I love that though, of like seeing seasons. So I personally struggle with, I am like a recovered, like literal OCD person, like medication and counseling to get through it, not just like I like numbers kind of thing.
Like your pencils in a
Um,
row.
yeah, that kind of thing. Like really affected my life
Yeah.
quite significantly. But there's still underlines of it. And so I often struggle with like, I want my days to be so perfectly. I'm always looking for the perfect schedule and the perfect time blocks and the perfect, like all this thing. And the idea of seasons, the idea of like, what do you mean I wouldn't write music every single day and call promoters every single day and do this? Like I want to do it every day because I feel like if I'm not doing it, it's not moving forward. But life doesn't life like that, right?
Right.
There are seasons. And it sounds like you took great advantage of that to say, hey, here's these times that are down times. Here's times I don't have. Was that a struggle for you? Or that kind of seasonal like strategy? Or was that something that just kind of overflowed naturally from the way you were doing life?
Well, unfortunately, I'm one of those people who always feels like I'm running out of time. And I've been that way my whole life. Like just this impending feeling of like, if I don't do it, I'm running out of time. And so that's something I've had to combat in later years, especially as time is speeding up, you know?
Right.
And now that I'm just in the mix with all of these things, I'm just trying to keep all the balls in the air. And so if all I can do is write one weekend a month, that's all I can do.
Okay. So you just kind of block it out and say, boom, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I accept it
Yeah.
and move on.
Yeah. Because, outside of work, I've got lots of other, things to juggle, I don't have kids, but yeah, it's like, I think about my life and I'd be like, oh my God, I could be doing this with children.
And those early years they're so cute, but man, now that our youngest is 11, it's life is way easier.
Yeah.
Cause the younger years,
Yeah.
like, Amanda from Twice on
Oh,
Sunday.
yes. Yes.
Right. Like, I was talking to her and Tony one day when they just had their second baby. And I was like, I remember those days. Cause it is wild. It's wild when they're younger. Cause you're like, how we were just talking a few nights ago. We went out for margaritas, Jenny and I. That's one thing you can do when they finally get older. It's like you can leave the house again. And we are like, how did we make it through 4 little kids? Like, I was like, I don't know. I blocked out half of it. Anyways.
You're like, I repressed it. I don't know.
Yeah, but it is. Yeah, it gets pretty wild. But life is wild in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But sorry, I think I cut you off on that regard though. But just this concept of, we were talking about the concept of like seasonal, or like you knew, okay, I can only do this one weekend during this season.
Right.
When you do that, do you still feel the pull like during the weeks?
Always.
That you should be writing?
Always feel the pull, but I have
Is
to
that just
balance.
the creator guilt?
It's the entrepreneur guilt. Like if you don't have your foot
Right.
on the gas, are you really going anywhere? But
Right.
I've been in this life for, solidly an entrepreneur for like 3 years now. And it's like, I've learned to try to have grace for myself, because if not, it'll just eat you alive, just sometimes all I can do is all I can do. And today, all I can do is not rip the FedEx guy's head off. Like, that's it. That's all I got.
And then you just tell yourself it's not that serious.
It's not. It's never that
And you
serious.
smile through it.
It's never that serious. Like, I can't think of anything so drastic. I only got 9 toenails, so because of the bird scooter last Friday.
Oh, that's
You're like, okay,
awesome.
random.
Yeah, it's like, I was like, where do we go with that one?
Yes.
I don't know, but
yes,
the bird scooter.
bird scooter. Yeah.
Now, was that fun, or were you like zipping in between events, like on a bird scooter?
We were leaving the Kansas City Current soccer game, and we were in
Nice.
the river market, and a car stopped right in front of me, and my choices were hit the car, or hit the ground, and I chose the ground. And
Yeah, that was smart choice though. You don't want to hit the car.
you don't. But the look of abject horror on his face when I went down, it was an Uber driver who just stopped to let
Yeah.
people out, and he was just like, he saw his career flash before his eyes. I'm like, I'm fine.
Right. He's like, my whole life is over.
Yes.
You're not dead?
Nope.
That's good.
Nope. I'm like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Stop looking at me. Please stop looking at me.
Well, and so that concept of giving yourself grace as an entrepreneur, I've had different businesses throughout my life. Like I said, I was a roofing contractor. I've
Yeah.
done music professionally in different businesses for years. When my wife and I got married, she would text me, "When are you done?" And I realized, because I got married at 29. So I described myself as super single, like got married late. And I realized like I didn't compute that question. I was like, I don't understand done. What's done? Cause like I wasn't even trying to be an ass. It was just like, I'm not ever. I just keep, most of my days for years have been, you start really fucking early and you go really late. And then if you wanted to take time out, you choose to, but there's no done.
That's right. That's entrepreneurship.
That's a tough,
It's hard.
And it's a tough grace piece where I've had to learn it, cause I want my family to thrive. I want, and I want to enjoy life. But the problem is I also enjoy what I do. So that's the struggle too. Like I'm lucky enough to get to do a cool ass business. That's fun.
That too. I live an interesting life, but it is taxing. It's exactly that. I had a friend recently. She's like, when's your next Saturday available? And I was like, November. And she's like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah. How about a Tuesday?
Yep. I meet with friends who aren't in the industry. I got like a handful of friends who aren't like musicians or agents or that kind of thing. And to catch up, it's like a Monday night. And they just kind of learn. They're like, you suck, man. Like I was like, I'll see you in January. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's like we just send, crass means to each other in between just to stay up, that kind of thing.
We're just out here like, enjoy your desk job.
They're like, I'm hanging out drinking margaritas, baby. What's with that? Like, it doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And then giving yourself grace. Are there things that you do that you build into your week or your month or your year to make sure you do recharge, to make sure you do rest? Are there disciplines you have?
Well, Meg and I have really struggled with scheduling a day off and sticking to it. And it can't be Saturday, Sundays, or sometimes it is Sunday. But, it's like, we can't even hold the same day every week because, it's like, it's just always moving and people are in our shop and need this and stuff like that. And it never stops. So it's like, we'll sit down on a Sunday night. We'll be like, Wednesday, we're taking Wednesday off. And then we won't take appointments and we won't talk about work, and that's the day I'll do my laundry and sleep all day and read and work on my book, something like that. But even sometimes I count working on my book as work. And it's like, this is my day off. Mm-hmm. I'm going to watch Game of Thrones. Like,
yeah,
that's it. And I have to be okay with that. I have to be okay with that being it,
Does it take a while to settle in? Like if you're going to watch Game of Thrones, like you're just sitting there, it's like, okay.
Especially when emails are coming. Like I'll get an email from a client and I'll be like, no, it's your day off. Other people get days off. Why can't you have a day off?
Exactly. And then, because I found if I don't do it, I'm lucky enough where like sometimes Jenny, she'll text me like I'll just tell her it's like I can barely move today. It'll be like a Monday because Mondays tend to be the hardest days for me, just because it's the insanity of like sometimes Wednesday through Sunday just nonstop playing kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And she'll be like, "Why don't you just watch John Wick for like the afternoon?" And so I'll like, okay, maybe I should. Then I'll sit there for like 30 minutes and all I can think about is all the other things. But finally I like relax into it. And there's this thing. So on iPhone, I just discovered they have reduce interruptions. Have you seen this setting? It is amazing because of all the notifications. Like you said, like we have all these different things coming through. So you can, it's different than do not disturb. So you can choose who gets through and then it blocks everything else, but then gives you a report. Like when you open up your phone, you can scroll through and go step by step. Like, oh, this is something I need to take care of. This is something I don't, but you can do it on your own time. And that's been amazing. I just started using it. Maybe it's existed for years. I don't know. I just discovered it. And that's helped me a ton too. Cause like I feel you like that nonstop piece in there. And I was going to say something about you're like, on your day off, you wanted to work on your book. And I was like, so you found the other thing to work on. Cause I'll do the same shit.
Yep.
Always hustling.
Yes.
Always making it happen.
I'll be like, did you know that we could host this book fair? And Meg will be like, you don't need another project. You don't need another project. And I'll be like, but I could do it so much better. That's the thing about being an event planner. Going to a poorly executed event is like nails on a chalkboard. Like I just can't handle it.
You want to go find a clipboard and snatch it from somebody kind of deal?
Literally. I'm like, why is nothing labeled?
You're like, bring it together, guys.
We can't see the trash cans. This is the Midwest. People will bust their own shit. Where's the trash can?
That's awesome. Well, for the last two questions of the podcast, based off the title, the first one, right now in your life, how would you define living a great life?
For me, living a great life is, like I said, not living the same day twice and being in full control of my time and my resources, and the input being a result of the output. Just really being in control.
That's awesome. And it's cool. It seems like you've designed that all around you.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Now, the last question right now, how would you define creating great things?
You know, my favorite thing to create is experience. And when we did that murder mystery, that was really an example of the type of creation I like to create. And that's an experience, because it's not tangible. It is fantasy. It is cerebral, and it stays with you. And that's the type of creation I like to make. And I feel like it's lasting and ephemeral and unique. And I feel like not everybody could create an experience for other people, or just understand the nuance of, you know, crowd psychology to understand, to create an event. And I just thrive on it. You know, I wish I could create more experiences for people.
It's awesome. So essentially, like creating events, like it's great if everyone is like synced in and really experiencing something unique.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, let people know how they can hire you to come speak. Check out your book one day when it comes out into the world, hire your companies for their various things, all the places.
Well, the quickest way to find me is, you know, send me an email at Heidi@cakeandchampagneplanning.com, the longest email address in the world. I already know, you know, or hello@polkadots.kc, you know, and, you know, I'm pretty out there on the internet. I'm not hard to find.
Thank you for listening to the Live and Create podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you subscribe and leave a comment or a review.
The Live and Create podcast.